my ability to hear and discern speech had been declining over the years, to the point where I was finding it difficult to understand a conversation. I couldn't use the phone any longer. My wife had to carry out all the telephone calls with the family, and a call that might take half an hour for her to complete was relayed in perhaps 30 seconds, a minute. So I lost all the personal feeling of the family and the cadence of what was happening in their relationships. There was no TV anymore. I couldn't go to the theatre, and I'd already withdrawn from things like the University of the Third Age. Any voluntary work I'd been doing, I found I couldn't act in a committee. So after a lot of research on the internet and talking to many people, I referred myself directly to the AIS, the Audio Implant Service, here in Southampton, with a prospect of following what they call the self-funded pathway through to potentially an implant. So after the assessments, I was accepted as being a good candidate for a cochlear implant. And it's now a year since I was actually implanted. And in that time, of course, there was uncertainty from the time of surgery. I wondered, would it be successful? What would it be like? Had all that money been justified? Would my life return to what it had been before? So, of course, switch-on day was rather important, very important. And my wife was sitting across the room when Nikki Campbell finished her initial settings of the electrodes in my cochlea. And I could understand enough at that point from what she was saying that what she intended to do after a little bit of acclimatization was to say 2 words. So she put a piece of paper in front of her mouth and she said to me what I then understood to be blue. And I said blue. And she said yellow. And I said yellow. I could understand straight away. And I looked across the room at my wife and we smiled. And I think a tear ran down my cheek. So that was day 1. The weekend followed and I returned on the Monday for further tuning, more refined settings of the electrodes, and speech became even more easy to discern. Not perfect by any means, but enough to get by. And at the end of the first week, I took an audio book out of the local library in Salisbury and connected it up directly to my implant processor through various cables and started to follow the text in the book, listening to the speech being broadcast by the actor. And at first I had to rely almost entirely on the book, but following successfully through my processor. But after a week of that, I found that more and more I could do away with the text and follow the story, and in fact start to enjoy actually what the book was about. So life started to improve quite quickly. So now it's a year on, and I've been improving since those days. I would say family life has returned for me. I can take a telephone call so long as it's somebody I know who probably will speak a little more slowly. I can make a call, but I tend to have to say to the other person, can you speak a little more slowly? Not necessarily louder, but just slowly, and we'll get on. And that works. I can chat with my wife in the car, so long as it isn't raining and the sound of the water in the road and the road noise just gets too much in the way. But I'm going out again. We've been to a ballet relay at the local cinema. We've been to the theatre. I have to use the loop system, and I don't always get everything that's said, but I can enjoy it again. But I have to say, speech in noise is difficult. If there's a lot of background noise, I have to concentrate very much on the person I'm trying to communicate with. I still benefit from lip reading and looking at somebody directly in the face. Women's voices are difficult. Everyone's pitch for me has been elevated. So a high-speaking lady is difficult, but I love a low-speaking gentleman. But I can recognize somebody I've known from years back just by listening to their speech and not seeing their face, and I can remember who that person is. So I'm discerning speech so much better. And if you said to me, would I have another implant? Well, I'd say the first one cost me £35,000. Would I spend another one? If I won the lottery, I certainly would. I'd be knocking on your door on Monday morning.